Hidden deep in the northern Cape of South Africa is a controversial town like no other. A place that has no black residents, where only white Afrikaners call home, and it has been in existence since 1991, even after the feared apartheid regime that segregated black South Africans.
Orania is a whites-only town. Black people cannot live or work here. Every job is reserved for the whites.
Do I believe that places like Orania should exist? No. Do I believe that Orania is racist? Of course.
The white Afrikaners only community of Orania got their own currency, their own flag, their own government, and make their own policies.
In school, they teach their own language and they generate their own electricity. Typical of any city, right?
Right here in Orania, we have our own private security company where we provide security for Orania.
And of course, we have our own airstrip here in Orania.
In Orania, we're building a city, so we have our own construction company.
And only hire white Afrikaners workforce.
Have you ever sold property to anyone who is not African speaking?
No.
If I have money, how much you sell? If I have money, you're saying I can't buy because I am not African.
It seems the long-term goal is to cut off from South Africa to build a white-only country.
Let me ask you, if you had your way to make Orania its own country, would you contribute to that?
Yes, I think it would be nice.
Not only the community of Orania, but the broader Afrikaans community has gotten lots of media mentions as South Africa imposed a new expropriation bill, which allows the government to confiscate land without compensation.
Orania, an Afrikaner-only town in South Africa, has weighed in on the US President Donald Trump's order halting financial aid to South Africa and offering refugee status to Afrikaners.
A lot of people suggested this is targeted at white Afrikaners, who are the majority landowners in the country. More on that later, as I journey 6 hours to Orania from Johannesburg in the province of Gauteng, I got lots of questions to ask.
Are you South African or Orania first?
I'm a Oranian first.
And I'll try to challenge their beliefs.
You are creating a new territory within South Africa.
Afrikaner territory. Yes,
that's
very
what
much
you're
so. Yes.
And I feel like that is against the healing process for the people of South Africa.
Above all, I am here to investigate what drives a community to build life completely separate from the country around them, and if these people are truly practicing racial segregation in South Africa.
Hello.
Hey, Stephen.
Yeah, how you doing?
How are you, man? Welcome in Orania.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
It's quite clearly an Afrikaner cultural community.
You said you lived in Pretoria for some years, right? So, were you treated less when you were in Pretoria, or you were treated like South Africa?
Well, treated as less, yeah, because I had less opportunities than other South Africans. From a social point of view, from a cultural point of view, I lost something that was my Afrikaner culture when I lived in Pretoria.
So Pretoria didn't give you that sense of community as an Afrikaans person?
Not at all.
Let me ask you, Franz, do you consider yourself a South African or Oranian?
Yes. I'm an Oranian and a South African. I think you can be both.
Which one come first?
At this moment, I think Oranian come first.
What passport do you have?
No, I have a South African passport, yeah.
So why would you say you're an Oranian first?
Because I don't think South Africa's ideals as it is right now coincides with Orania's ideals. I think they are on two different trajectories. I cannot call myself a South African first, because I don't feel like South Africa has my best interest as an Afrikaner, I thought.
I noticed something just beside you. There's a man just wearing like a shirt and a regular shirt, and I see he has a gun. He has a gun in his pocket. Like, is he a police person? If he's police, I expect to see a uniform or something.
Yeah, no, it's not a police person. No, we practice safe gun control in Orania. The Afrikaner people in general are people that like having firearms, like to hunt, like to practice their own safety.
The town of Orania was established by Karel Boshoff, the son-in-law of the former South African Prime Minister Hendrik Verwoerd, who was the chief architect of apartheid. Boshoff, along approximately 40 other Afrikaner families, bought this town in 1990 with a specific purpose of creating a cultural homeland for Afrikaners, a place where they could preserve their language, cultural heritage, and values in post-apartheid South Africa. To be allowed to live here, there are 3 qualifications. First, you must be white Afrikaner and speak Afrikaans. Second, you must believe in what the Afrikaners believe in. Third, you must have no criminal record and uphold Christian principles.
We founded Orania in the 90s, early 90s, and this was in the Afrikaans-speaking newspaper. So what's important is one needs to realize that we don't take the best part of the land. we go to a place where nobody else is. This area is referred to as a demographic hole.
Nobody
So-
lived here until the land was possessed and developed.
Yeah, we go to a place where nobody else is, and we founded the place and we start building it from scratch. Now, what's important is we do it with our own labor.
So the fact that you say you guys found a land that had not been developed on, you
Yeah.
went ahead to develop on it.
Yeah.
The fact that you say it's only the Afrikaans people that can live here, a lot of people would not understand that concept because
Yeah.
it is still in South Africa, and I believe you have a South African passport, do you?
Yes, I do.
Our government sold them that land. Not by a court order, it was a commercial deal between the South African government and Orania.
So let's dive in deeper into the subject of land ownership in South Africa. During apartheid, 87% of South African land was owned by the white minority, despite them making less than 10% of the population. That number hasn't changed by much since post-apartheid. So now, the government promised land reforms to correct this. The South African ruling party, ANC, announced plans to amend the constitution to allow for land expropriation without compensation. The new expropriation bill brought a lot of attention to the Afrikaner community because they own most of the lands in South Africa. In my opinion, this was a tool for redistributing land to black majority, and I think the goal is to correct historical injustice. It would allow the governments to confiscate land without paying the owner, and since most of the lands were owned by the white minority, it became a big problem.
Kill the poor, the farmer. Brr, pa, pa. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing.
Find out what South Africa is doing. They're taking away land, they're confiscating land, and actually they're doing things that are perhaps far worse than that.
You'd understand somebody watching that, especially as it gets shared on Twitter, they freak out. It sounds like a genocidal call.
Cry babies.
And President Trump is offering refugee status to Afrikaners to consider moving to America.
Do you think you're going to consider applying so you can go to America?
No, I won't apply for that.
Why is that?
I have no need. America is not my home.
Yeah, but America could offer you greater opportunity.
There's no Afrikaner freedom in America.
What do you mean by Afrikaans freedom?
I think it would be unjust for me to build my own community in America.
No, I don't think I would take that. I'm fortunate enough to have my own business here. I'm happy here, I'm raising my family, I'm close to my culture, and as long as that prevails, then we'll live in Orania.
If I'm grown up and everything, I want to go Namibia. My dad is born there and everything. It is Namibia or South Africa. That is the two countries I know from when I was a child. America, I don't know.
This is where I'm going to be staying here. All through my visit here, I was told this is the upper market of Orania. Like, this is where the richest people would live. It cost me 1,590 rands, which is anywhere around maybe 90 or $95. I'm not sure. It's like a 2-bedroom, living room, everything. Once again, I'm a visitor, and that's why I'm allowed to stay here. But I can't own a house here. And for the living situation, things are not cheaper than South Africa, because a lot of people will say the reason why the Afrikaans people would want to live in Orania is because things are somewhat cheaper. But touring this community, I wouldn't say things are cheaper. I would just say they want to live in a place where their neighbor is a fellow Afrikaans white person, and that's it.
What we like to create is a pedestrian-friendly town in the first place. Call it a 20-minute city, which means that the basic things that a house needs should be 20 minutes walking distance away from.
Oh.
But that's like the plan. We have a city that's being built horizontally rather than vertically. So that means that we don't want big skyscrapers here. We don't want like Johannesburg, for instance. Afrikaners or Boere or farmers, we love nature, we love the natural environment. So we want to preserve some of that as well. And that's why you will see Orania is developing horizontally.
How many percent of the land that was bought has been built and developed with people living in it?
So I don't have percentage-wise, but I can say not a lot. We have a lot of undeveloped land in Orania. So that's one of the things people always ask us, are we still buying more land? Are we still expanding our borders? Well, obviously, yes, we are looking into the future, the far, far future, as that is necessary, and we're looking for opportunities. But right now, Orania has already have enough land for 10,000 people, and we're only 3,000 people. So then we can make a quick math, it's about 30%, right? The rest of the land is still undeveloped, and it takes a lot of time to develop that land, and it takes a lot of infrastructure that have to be put in place, and it gets expensive as well.
Stephen, Peter Bischoff.
Peter Bishop?
Yeah.
Okay. How long have you been living in Orania?
7 years.
7 years. Do you consider living in Orania affordable or expensive?
Everything that is in Orania is new. In order, if you want something, you need to build it. Unfortunately, building costs nowadays is quite expensive. Yes, Orania is more expensive than other towns where there's a lot of capacity available and things isn't that expensive.
Have you ever sold property to anyone who is not African speaking?
In Orania?
Yes.
No. Remember, we're a cultural environment. In other words, it's only Afrikaners living in Orania.
So what you're saying is a black South African cannot buy a property here.
What I say, an English-speaking person can't buy a property. It's for Afrikaners. It's not for anybody else, and that's why only Afrikaners live in Orania. Yeah. If I can take Nelson Mandela's words of a rainbow nation, there's red and there's black, and red and blue and green. Now that means that it's not just one grey. There is place for various people according to our own constitution, to say, listen, people can take responsibility for themselves. And that's what we are doing.
If you happen to, by chance, decide to move out of here to probably Johannesburg, and you go to a community and they say because you are Afrikaans, you're not allowed to live there, how would you feel as a person?
I'll say 100% fine. It makes sense. If a lot of French people say, listen here, we are a French community, that's our common bond. You're not French. Do I have the right to say, listen, I want to live here? No, I don't. Why? Because those people put up their own thing.
Constitutionally, you have rights because you're South African. And I think one of the reasons why the apartheid was abolished is because everybody needs to live in peace and harmony together.
I agree with that 100%. We live in peace and harmony
with
together.
Only the Afrikaans people.
But that doesn't mean that you must. Why do we need to force things in that doesn't need to be forced in? The fact that you're Nigerian, no, I'm Afrikaner. What's the difference?
No, I'm a Nigerian. You're a South African.
In South Africa, there's 11 different groups in one country, and the lines for South Africa were drawn by Europe.
Yes.
Now, is that correct? Is that the way in which one should do it?
No.
Europe decide that all these different nations should be put together in one country. Does it make sense? No, it doesn't. In Europe, they do it exactly the opposite way. There's the French, there's Germany, there's Britain, but we decide, no, you need to be one country. And no, you're not allowed to be French anymore. You're not allowed to be English anymore. You're not allowed to be German anymore. Why do you want to do it in South Africa? Why do you want to force people to become something that they aren't?
Let me ask you, if you had your way to make Orania its own country, would you contribute to that?
Yes, I think it would be nice, not only for Orania, also
for all the groups.
For all the various groups in South Africa.
That makes it wrong. It is nice to have different culture that exists within a country. That shouldn't separate you. That is diversity, but everybody can live together in the same community in peace and harmony.
But you have a problem with diversity.
No, I don't have a problem with diversity. I have a problem with how it is practiced. You can be Afrikaans, can have your own community, but should be able to exist within that community with any other tribe that wants to come in.
Yes, we work together with each and every tribe.
But you're saying I can't buy a property here. If I have money, how much you sell? If I have money, you're saying I can't buy because I am not Afrikaans.
If I decide tomorrow, listen, I do want to live in, let's say, Germany.
Yes.
They will tell me, sorry, it's not that simple. Germany is for the Germans.
They will tell you it's not that simple, but you can go through the process.
You can go
through the process, but eventually, if you qualify, you would. And that is because you're not German.
Yeah.
If you're German, it's a different case.
Yeah. The difference between your argument and my argument is you say, I'm only a South African, and that means that each and every square meter of South Africa belongs to each and every person.
Yes.
And that makes sense. But if you draw that line through, then you must say, listen, but half of your house I want to live in your house. Why then suddenly you discriminate?
We're talking about a community and you're giving me an example of a house. A house is different because a house only have a family, a mother, father, children, neighbor, cousins, and
Now
that's
just
it.
take that argument of you.
Yeah.
We're a community. We're just a community. You know, as I said, all over the world, there's various communities.
Yes, you're correct.
Now, why can't there be Afrikaans community? Just answer that question for me. Why do you want to discriminate against Afrikaners?
They can
You
be
say
an
it's allowed.
Afrikaans. They can be an Afrikaans community, like I told you.
Then Orania is not a problem. Thanks a lot. Thanks a
No,
lot.
no, no. They can be,
Appreciate.
but I'm saying.
Thanks a lot. I do appreciate. He just now said there can be Afrikaans.
No,
community, and
that is what we're talking about, diversity.
life growth,
It is
you know.
allowed. You can be a Zulu closer community, but I'm saying anybody, so far as you're South African, should be able to coexist, so far as it's a land in South Africa. That's what I'm saying.
Quick shout out to today's video sponsor, Odoo. Running a business, especially when you're on the move like I often am, it means you need tools that would keep everything in sync, especially as a creator or a business owner. Now, I want you to think about the smartphone me and you use on a daily basis. It comes with applications like a calculator, a music player, a notepad, and many others to make sure your life is easy. That is how I want you to picture Odoo. Odoo is a supercharged software with over 45 interconnected apps to ensure you can run your business using one software. Literally everything from invoicing to sales to inventory, websites, and so much more. Everything in your business connects and work together seamlessly on Odoo, so you don't have to jump in between multiple different tools. It just makes perfect sense, especially since it is mirroring our habits with smartphones. One app that I find very interesting is the Odoo invoicing app. Whether I am in Lagos, Dubai, or Cape Town, I can send clean professional invoices. I can also track the payment and send automatic reminders. No stress, no delay. Just identify your customer, add your product and services, set your payment terms, and the invoice is ready. All that's left is awaiting the status of your invoice to turn paid. And the best part, the first app on Odoo is free for life, so you can try it out for yourself and start streamlining invoicing for your business free of charge. Odoo really looks like the future of business management, and I've got a link for you to be part of it. Click the link in the description, check it out, and thank me later. Now let's jump back into the video.
I feel like I haven't really found information about here in Orania is how affordable the houses are. Maybe it could be one of the reasons why people, the Afrikaans people, would choose to move in here. So
what you will first of all see is like right here, this side is construction, that side is construction. If you go that side, you will see construction. There's a lot of construction projects because we are developing a town and a community solely using our own labor.
You should be able to employ anybody that can do the job, whether Black South African, whether Afrikaans.
So we want to build our own Afrikaner community, but we accept the responsibility that if we want to be an Afrikaner community, that means we should do the labor of it as well. We're not going to exploit anyone that can say later on, you want to live here, I'm allowed to work there, but I'm not allowed to live there.
You mentioned you lived in Pretoria at some point.
Yes.
How you feel if you try to get a job and they say this is only available to Zulu people?
In fact, I would compliment it because that's people taking charge of their own culture, you know, preserving their culture and looking out for their own people.
And you don't think that is wrong?
I don't think that is wrong at all. I think, in fact, I think it's a solution for many of the problems.
So what you're trying to say is the people here, the African people, they are promoting little communities to exist all around South Africa.
Yes. I'm not saying that everybody should agree with Orania. However, we need to accept that the solutions might be more complicated than we think.
So I see you guys do have a project going on here, and just by looking, I can see you only have Afrikaans people working here. Even though this community is exclusive for you guys, would you ever consider like Black South Africans that want to get a job here, even though they don't live here, they just want to work for the construction company and they have the expertise, they have the skill set to contribute to this project? Would you think you would allow them work here?
We as Oranians, and Afrikaners that stay here, we say this is our town because we build it ourselves.
So for it to qualify as an Afrikaans town built by Afrikaans, then it has to be constructed by African.
Yes, yes.
What if there's a special concept you guys are trying to achieve? You don't have the skill set here in the community. It's only a black South African that
usually,
can.
On this particular site here, we have a very certain way of the plumbing system that we are going to use. So what we did is we empowered a young contractor in town, a young
to go and learn the skill.
So he goes outside,
and come back.
learns the skill, and he brings the tool and the skill back to town.
So you would rather have that than bring in a black South African
Definitely,
here?
because we're empowering our own people then.
So in every major town you go to, there's usually places for the rich people, middle class, and
No, that's something Orania differs. Orania is very integrated.
yeah, but there are units specifically for people that have the purchasing power. Let's not use the word rich now.
There is certain developments that the stand's going to cost more.
It's going to cost more, so it's only rich people that can afford that. So what I'm asking now is, like, the average price of properties.
Let's say from 600,000 up to 2.2 million.
So 2.2 million is what you call the high end.
Yeah, that's high end.
600
but
is.
You'll see in Orania, you'll see no mansion.
No mansion.
Yeah. So
Why?
there's no mansions because the way in which we think. But
So
you'll still see no squatter camp either. So people who come and live in Orania think community.
So what do the Orania people do to make money?
Many people work in construction because we are still a growing town. There's a lot of construction going on. Some people do actually have their own businesses, and we have entrepreneurs. And then you also have people that work, via the internet for companies outside of Orania. So this right here is Monument Hill.
Why is it called a Monument Hill?
Well, obviously because we have these little busts up here, these little monuments.
So who are these people to you, and why do you have their monument here?
Well, these are all people from our history. These are all either states presidents or politicians from our history. If you come a little bit forward, you'll see the small giant. In Afrikaans, we call him the Klein Reus. He's also the guy that's on our flag. He is the symbol of Orania. No, he's on a flag as well. He's rolling up his sleeve because he's ready to work. We call him a small giant because Orania is small, it's a small community, but the idea is giant. The influence we have is giant.
Would you say the future of Orania is to disconnect from South Africa, have its own country?
We're living in a country where the borders have been drawn up by the British, and we're all melded and mushed together.
Now you guys are drawing your own border within South Africa.
Yeah, well, we have a border. There's a border to the edge to our private land. Yeah, of course.
Our colonizers, that is what they were doing. They came in here and gave us borders. So now you guys are creating your own border within a country. I read so much about this guy.
Yes.
I heard he was a bad person. He was the reason why a lot of South Africans were underpaid, were treated like shit in their own very country. This guy,
yeah,
he started apartheid region.
Yes, yeah.
This one. If you say this is a monument hill, because I know if you put up a monument somewhere, it means that person is considered a hero. But then I'm seeing a monument of someone who started apartheid, and then you're saying you guys are against apartheid.
History is inherently subjective. History isn't a black and white case, it's a grey area. And he's known as the architect of apartheid. Cheap black labor and labor exploitation and race exploitation and cultural exploitation was a long time coming before this guy took up the presidency. What Hendrik Verwoerd actually did was he structurized it and he gave a name to it. But he has done many more things.
Terrible things, you mean?
Well, he has done good things as well.
Apartheid. And I'm afraid that has been misunderstood so often. It could just as easily, and perhaps much better, be described as a policy of good neighborliness. Accepting that there are differences between people. But while these differences exist, and you have to acknowledge them, at the same time, you can live together, aid one another, but that it can best be done when you act as good neighbors always do.
Yeah, well, millions of bloods of South Africans are on his hands.
Yeah. That is a subjective case to make.
So what you're saying is whether he has done bad or good, he deserves a monument in your community.
Yes.
Because he's part of what
and then his past should be taught exactly like it was. Not as just good, that would be wrong, but not as just bad as well. Yeah. And that is why we have changed it. And that is why these busts are put up here. They're in the past, they cannot see over the hill, but up there is our future. We do not want to give anything up of ourselves, but we realize that we cannot expect everyone to just give us a territory there. We will build it ourselves. We will get out of your hair and build it ourselves. And what's more than that, we will share our recipe with other peoples, and we have, that want to do the same thing. Orania cannot be described as a or the foundation of Orania isn't founded on a whites-only town, because it's not. Like I said, I've studied in Pretoria, I lived in Pretoria. Now I have many black friends as well, you know, from different parts. One was Zulu, one actually came from another African country.
How did you feel when you had that mixture?
Some of the best people I've met in my life.
So, how do you then feel living in a community where you don't have those people?
But I would think it would be unfair for me to subject my Zulu friend to living in Orania, to be surrounded by symbolism that he doesn't agree.
You're not subjecting them. You're giving them the willingness to. If you want, then you can.
Yes.
But now what you guys have here is only this or this.
Yes. Yes, because we
need
to...
that's wrong.
No, because you need to protect your culture, right?
Have you faced any threat or pressure from the government to try and integrate other cultures into Orania?
Not from government officials, no. Mainly threats from politicians, you know, during election times when they want those easy political points and they want those votes. And then obviously the media is a big enemy of Orania as well.
As I investigated this town deeper, more and more questions exploded in my head. But the most obvious one is, what does the South African Constitution says about segregated communities like this? I researched and found the South African Constitution. I found section 31 on the cultural, religious and linguistic communities. So in summary, this section protects the right of minority communities to preserve and practice their cultural identities as long as they do not violate other constitutional rights. Another section I found is 235 under the right to self-determination. This clause here is key because it allows for territorial or communal self-determination, provided it happens within the framework of the South African law and democracy. So what is happening here is, legally, Orania has the right to exist as a private town under this constitutional protections I just laid out for you guys. So what I think is, it promotes racial segregation at the basic level, because if every cultural group within South Africa chooses to create enclosed communities like this, then segregation might continue, which will then raise further questions.
While there is a right of being a minority and self-actualizing as a minority and creating that community, there's a part in the Constitution called Section 36, and it basically tests how far that right can extend or how limited you are on the right. So we don't have these open-ended rights. I think it's because no one's really taken the people of Orania to court until something happens. Then we'll have answers in our precedent and our law as to how far this right actually extends.
What do you think about the town of Orania?
So in terms of it being an exclusive area just for a specific group of people, can go anywhere in the world. From the top of my head, it doesn't sound right. And how you go about eradicating it, I think it's also a conversation that's to be heard. Because why would you even do a neighborhood like this? Why would you even think this is a great idea, seeing that we're in South Africa?
As long as Orania is not bothering the rest of South Africa, we kind of just left them alone. Until you brought up Orania, did I remember that there's a place called Orania? Nobody cares. I'd leave it there because it's a small community that's not a threat to us. Until Orania becomes a threat, until we hear of atrocities of what they are doing to black people in Orania, then we take the action. But for now, let people exist. We call ourselves a Rainbow Nation.
Orania, I know they don't allow black people. But what they're doing is they bypass the constitution by saying you need to speak Afrikaans.
100%.
Now, I speak Afrikaans better than most white people. That's my first language.
Yeah.
But I cannot live in Orania.
Yeah.
Then they get another thing they say. You gotta believe in our cultures and in our holidays. So on that front, it's racist.
A lot of South Africans think like Orania is a racist community. What do you have to say to them?
I don't think it is a racist community. For our community who speak Afrikaans, if anyone can speak Afrikaans, it is a community for Afrikaans.
So let me then ask you, if a black South African can speak Afrikaans and is willing to abide by the rules and regulations of the Orania community, would you accept such person here in your community?
From my side, yes, but from other sides, I don't know, because we need to take it up with the Dorpsraad.
I always try to tell people that I think they should come here and see themselves. We welcome everyone here, and we're just very proud of our own, and we like to live our culture, and we want the freedom to do that. Yeah.
Can you date or get married to a black South African?
I can.
You can?
Yes,
but
my community
would not accept him?
I don't think some of the people in the community won't accept.
Automatically means you not accept him because the community wouldn't accept him.
But if I love that man and the community won't accept it, then I'm leaving the community.
So, I have done my investigation, and in conclusion, there are good sides and bad sides to this white Afrikaner community. On the good side, they promote economic and self-sufficiency. Orania operates independently from South African government in many ways, and they are taking responsibilities for themselves.
And now we are at our bank, which is one of our institutions.
Like when you say your bank, like is the bank founded by Afrikaner?
Yeah, by Oranian, yeah. So
what is the name of the bank?
It's OSK, which stands for Orania Savings and Credit. Orania, we use both rands, which is the South African currency, and then I've brought with me a couple of auras. Auras is our own Orania currency, so you can have a look at that. It acts like a currency in Orania. It's notes that you can only use in Orania, and it is backed by the rand, so it's a one-to-one exchange rate for the rand.
I'm very curious.
Yes.
Does the South African Constitution allow you guys to do this?
Yes, yes, because this is a coupon system, right? This is not a competing currency with the rand. In fact, I think it actually benefits the rand as well. This is a 10 aura. While we have this 10 aura in our hands right now, there's 10 auras somewhere in a bank. So while we are trading with, which is arguably worthless pieces of paper, coupons, you know, there's actually money in the bank that is being generating
Okay,
income.
so what you're saying is, if a local person has 20 aura,
yes,
it means they have 20 rands.
Yes.
So they don't necessarily need to hold rands.
Yes.
So would you say this is one of the many strategies you guys are trying to implement to gradually take out the rands from your economy?
No.
Here.
No. Well, this is one of the many strategies we have to grow an internal economy in Orania. While we are working with this, there are rands in the bank generating income. That income or generating interest. That interest can be used to help local economies and local businesses. So if someone in Orania comes and they want to rob me, and they rob my wallet and it's all of this, they cannot use it outside of Orania. So they will not rob me. I can feel sure they will not rob me because they cannot use these notes outside of the Orania. And then if they do, we will easily know because each one is unique. You can see it's uniquely numbered.
Where do you print this thing from?
I think they have a printer here in Orania.
So you guys print your own money?
Yes. Well, every 3 years, I think.
So if you print your own money, which means you can print excess of it?
No, you cannot because it's backed by the rand. You have to have the rands to actually have auras. Now, it's a coupon. So 20 aura is equal to 20 rand. You can't just print auras. You have to have 20 rand to be able to make 20 aura.
Oh, so you're saying this piece of note was printed with 10 rands, this one?
Yeah, it didn't cost 10 rands to print, but for this one to exist in circulation, there is 10 rands in the bank.
So what does it cost to print this?
No, it's less than it's worth.
What's the future of this?
Well, it's to keep using it, to keep stimulating and growing our economy. We have
but then you want to get to a point where you take out the rands and this is the official currency here, because you guys are trying to have your own country here.
Well, you're not allowed to compete with the currency of South Africa. You see, you have two currencies in South Africa. You have the rand and then you have the gold currency. And that is not what we are doing with the aura. What we are doing is we're creating a coupon system that empowers our economy, empowers our small businesses, and makes us money while we are doing that.
Well, you guys would have to let me know what you think about the Orania people having their own currency.
And of course, we have our own airstrip here in Orania.
This airstrip here, does it belong to the people of Orania?
It's a part of the Orania community, and we have received some flights here in the past.
Small, when you say private planes?
Yeah, it would be small planes like this one, yes.
So
yes.
Normal Boeing 777, 777?
Not yet, but one day. Maybe if your viewers want to come visit, they can one day land here.
Unlike many rural towns in South Africa struggling with unemployment and crime, Orania boasts near zero crime rate. When people think of South Africa, the first thing that comes to mind is theft. And I have seen a video of someone robbed on live TV, which is crazy. And the people of Orania seek to solve that problem.
So yeah, right behind us is our own private security building. You can see the helipad over there. On the back there's an ambulance and there's like a small medical centrum.
From what I have been told, Orania is a very safe place. Why do you need a private security when it's a very safe community to live?
Just a safe community, but it's still not heaven. So we do have petty crime, we have domestic problems in town. We also do like rescue and fire services, medical services.
How many people work in this establishment?
Right here we have 4 people working permanently.
4 people serving the whole 3,000 community.
Yes,
that is quite small.
Yeah, we also have a control room where we have permanent staff that
you have cameras all around.
Cameras, yeah.
So how does this department get funded?
There's a safety levy, so everyone that works here pays a small amount of safety levy. Yeah. So that's mostly how we get funded. We have no funding from the outside.
So right here, I heard people can hold guns.
Yeah, it's part of our culture.
Have you had instances where people use the guns for what it's not meant to be used for?
We had a suicide about 3 years ago. It's part of life, I think. It's not. That's what happened.
The person was probably tired.
Yeah.
Tired of life.
Yeah.
Maybe tired of Orania more? No?
No, I don't think so. No, I think tired of life. So
this is the only firefighter truck that is serving the whole community, this one?
The whole community and the surrounding area. We're very proud of this truck. We only bought it about a month ago.
What are the benefits you get living in this community right here right now?
Safety for our childs. Because out there's some people who don't care about other people's child.
Yeah, so I think the benefit is obviously safety. We live in a country where crime is skyrocketing everywhere. Everywhere except for Orania. So just for instance, in this week, some of my family live in Cape Town. My uncle's been mugged at gunpoint, been robbed. Yeah, so that's not a pleasant experience. And me myself, I've got a wife and 3 children here, and I raise them, and we do homeschooling. And I think it's the perfect environment for them to grow up.
I think the government already has too much power. I think power should be given back to the people of this country. I think the people need to take responsibility of their own people. What have we done in Orania? We have combated things like load shedding, crime rates, joblessness. We have combated those things. Not because the Afrikaners kind of some specialized or better than other people. We have done this because we have a community that share the same interests. We look out for one another. And I fully believe that if other South African cultures do the same thing for their own people and create a safe Xhosa community where we look out for our neighbors and look out for each other's best interests, they will have the same results.
Orania has invested heavily in off-grid solar power system.
Orania's new battery is actually arriving. Since Orania's inception, we've been focusing on working towards energy independence. And this is one step closer. A 4.8 megawatt hour battery is arriving today. It's been a long process. We've been working with financing it, making plans, working with the technical requirements and everything. And today the battery is actually arriving. It's going to be 2 shipping containers with massive batteries. And the town is here to see it. It's a historic moment in Orania's history.
When you look at Orania, it is very impressive what they've done there. I think the one thing that we must be very worried about, which is to be off the grid and not have load shedding.
Yeah.
Now, do you understand the humiliation, the embarrassment for us? If you look at South Africa from the sky, and it is dark this side, and Orania's all lit
There's
up.
a little patch that's lit. Where's that?
Where's that? They're like, that's where the white people are. That's a problem for me. We are deliberately in darkness.
The bad side of Orania would be it is a symptom of unresolved racial tension. While they claimed about cultural preservation, the fact remains it is a racial exclusive town in a country that fought against segregation, even though a section of the constitution permits minority to have enclosed communities.
The Orania community is for Afrikaners. But then, are we going to advise the Zulu people? Are we going to advise the Xhosa to do the same thing and make a community just enclosed for their people, create jobs for the people? That's a conversation I'd like you guys to have in the comment section. What do you think, especially for the South Africans? Do let me know. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel because I have more interesting episodes coming out from South Africa. And I'll see you guys in the next one.